Alright, as you can see in this video, I'm going to prepare gluten-free, plant-based pizza. So please pause the video to take the ingredients and how to prepare. Alright, let's get started. So as you can see, I have my garlic powder right here. And I have the gluten-free all-purpose flour, the salt, the sea salt as well. And we have the water, and the measurements is already there at the 1 cup of the gluten-free all-purpose flour. We also have the gluten-free measure for measure flour. I'll be using that in this recipe as well. And we have the flaxseed. All right, so as you can see, we will get started without any further delay. So I have my bowl ready and set. You want to make sure you have all your ingredients together already. So I'm dumping that in there, the 1 cup of all-purpose flour, gluten-free or gluten-free blend. Then we have the 1 cup of the gluten-free flour. You can add 1.5 cups. And depending how much water you use, that is. If you're using less water, then 1 cup is fine. If you're using 1 cup of water, then I would shoot for the 1.5 cup. Now we have the flaxseed that I've already grinded freshly, so I'm just going to add that to the mix. Flaxseed is amazing for the brain and can be used. Some people use flaxseed to rise certain, pastry and so forth if they want to opt out from the baking soda. There are counsels in that from the Spirit of Prophecy. And we also have the teaspoon. I'm going to put in, as the ingredients says, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. So I'm going to add that in the mix. And now I'm going to put that aside there. Now I'm going to be adding my sea salt. You can use Celtic sea salt or Himalaya sea salt. Sea salt's always better than the regular table salt just because it has minerals, and you want to make sure you get those minerals in there. And I added my 1 teaspoon of sea salt. Next, I'm going to add my olive oil. So I'm just going to pour the portion that I need. And as the ingredients was mentioned, I'm going to add my 2 tablespoons of olive oil. There you go. You could also use grapeseed oil as well, simply because grapeseed oil is a high heat oil. And so it's not often I cook with oil, to be honest, but for this recipe, you would call for it because you want your dough to be on the moist side, not too hard or dry, if you will, or not too dry is more the reason. Okay, so now I'm going to mix that batter, that dough, and I will later on mix it with my hands. I'm just going to get it mixed started here. Make sure all the ingredients are mixed well. You can be creative and add turmeric if you want, give a little different color to the crust, whatever you prefer, but just going to keep it a little simple for today. And now I'm going to I see it's a little sticky there, as you can see. Now, usually when I cook, I don't usually like to measure, but as you can see, I added my extra 1/2 cup of flour. And now I'm going to mix that dough up to make sure that all the ingredients are well mixed together. Now, gluten-free flours are very tricky. Now, if you were doing this with wheat flour or spelt flour, some people can't do wheat at all. Unless you have the good acorn wheat, good quality wheat, that is, not just any wheat. But gluten-free flours are very tricky to work with. So I wanted to do this for the sake of those who may be gluten intolerant, who may suffer from celiac or other bowel disorders. In our case, we don't have much issues eating gluten diets or gluten, like spelt flour. I use spelt on occasion as well. I use spelt flours. It's an amazing wheat substitute. But for the sake of our viewers, we wanted to do a gluten-free pizza for those who may be suffering from gluten intolerance, which is very common. So as you can see, I'm working that dough. I want to make sure it's well mixed together, nice and combined nicely. Now, for those who choose to use yeast, it may change the texture a little bit, maybe slightly on the fluffier side, but gluten-free flours are a little trickier, like as I said, than gluten flours, like wheat and spelt. So as you can see, I had a little bit of extra flour. You can always use that to make something with it, or if you do other recipes, you can always preserve. But in this case, I will discard the little bit that's left and use this batch to make the dough. And so you get your rolling pin just to flatten it out. All right, so I'm just gonna roll that. Like I said, right? When it comes to gluten-free flours, it could be a little tricky. So you want to make sure that you roll it nice and flat as much as you can. The flatter it is, the faster it will cook, of course. Some people prefer the dough thicker. Again, it's according to your preference, so you do what you prefer. But as for me, I'm going to flatten the dough so it's not too thick, but it's on the thinner side, because you want to make sure your dough is well cooked as well. So for that reason. All right, and like I said in the ingredients, I use a little bit extra oil just to kind of brush extra moisturize the dough a little bit more before it goes in the oven. And there you have it. I'm just going to brush it and make sure that it's well garnished, but also moisturized, if you will. Now I'm just going to fold the ends here, the crust edges, like you see in those pizza restaurants. You know, I'm not the biggest expert in making pizza, but for the few times I've made pizza, it's worth it because it saves you a trip to going to, and it's hard to find sometimes these days, gluten-free, plant-based or vegan pizzas. There are places that they do have these things, but the beauty about doing your own is that you control what ingredients you want to put in. Even gluten-free items, they may have some cross-contamination with dairy, or they may have vinegar inside and just other things that you don't want to consume. Nothing of that nature. So we don't use vinegar in our culinary. We use lemon as a replacer to vinegar. Just if you've seen my last episode on mayo, the vegan meal that I made, instead of vinegar, we used lemon juice. So same principle. All right, so I'm just gonna flatten a little bit more to make sure it's nice and thin. All right, and now I'm going to go over to the next step, and I'm going to put the oven at 350 Fahrenheit. You want to preheat the oven, by the way, and I'm just going to spray the pan. Now this, you have to be extra careful when you want to put this onto the pan. Make sure nothing rips, not too thin, right? You want to make it not too thin so it doesn't break on you, but just with extra TLC, you should be okay. You'll be able to get that pizza dough onto the pan. Now remember, this is gluten-free, so it's not a really easy thing to handle sometimes, but with practice, it gets better. All right, so I have it onto the pan. I'm going to put this in the oven for, I would say 20 minutes, right? You want to pre-cook the dough before you cook the other ingredients and not overcook the vegetables you're gonna put on top of it. So I would say 20 minutes to 25 minutes. I would put it in there, let it cook. and bake. All right, so now I'm going to make my vegan cheese. Now, to those who may prefer the gummy look of cheese, just like how you see in pizza restaurants, you can add agar-agar flakes to this recipe. But for me, I will not be adding that. I'll just be adding the ingredients as I mentioned in the beginning of this video. That's been displayed in the beginning of the video. So I got my cashews in there. I have my turmeric, my tomato, and I got my sea salt. And I'm gonna add those ingredients onto this blender. And all this you can do while you're baking your crust, the pizza crust. And you know what's amazing about cashews is that it's so tasty and it's so versatile. You can do so much recipes with cashews. Now, to those who may have nut allergies, you may want to opt out and use sunflower seeds instead. But we don't have nut allergies, so we're using the cashews and so forth. The turmeric helps give that yellow color of cheese. Now, if you want it on a lighter side, like a mozzarella color, you can add perhaps some coconut milk to give a lighter color, or just use less turmeric. The turmeric plays a major role in the coloring, how dark you want or how light you want the cheese to look like. So it's to your discretion, but this is what I'm doing for this recipe. I added my 2 cloves of garlic, and I'm gonna get that going and blend. And I will also be working on cutting up the olives into slices. So as this is going, as you can see, it's blending pretty nicely. Turmeric is an amazing anti-inflammatory, and it's good for your health, and it gives that nice color. All right, so I'm gonna start cutting up my olives here, black olives. Some people prefer green, some people prefer black. Whichever you prefer. If you want to use green, you can use that. If you want to use black, then use that. So I'm just gonna cut away because I'm gonna be using that as a topping for vegan pizza, gluten-free pizza. So I'm just gonna chop away, cut away. And olives, Ellen White even counsels, should be eaten every meal. Not only because it's rich in fat, good fats that is. Did you know that olives act as a mild laxative, is rich in fiber, so it helps to move things along, if you will. It helps you to have a smooth move. And so, thanks to olives, it is a great antidote for constipation. And actually, this counsels on olive oil, which I'll put on the screen now. So when you're using the bathroom, it's smooth, right? So olives are a very good staple to add to your meals, breakfast and lunch. I love olives, and I never get tired of olives. And our whole family loves olives, actually. So just gonna cut away here. Now, it depends how much olives you like. Some people prefer little, like sparingly. Some people like to use a lot of olives on their pizza. Again, there's no measurement, no specifics here. You use to your discretion how much you need to put on your topping. You could add, if you like, peppers in there, green, red peppers, but in this pizza recipe, I did not add it in this recipe. You could add broccoli as well. You know, be creative. You could be very creative and do that. All right, so I am now going to put these olives into a bowl, set it aside like that. Alrighty, so now this is the tomato pesto. I'm going to add, or I did add rather, the Italian seasoning And I got the homemade kale chips that I've made, but this is without the vegan cheese. I've added other seasonings to it. That'll be my topping for the pizza. I blended the ingredients for the pesto. And now I believe it's ready to add the toppings. Let's do this. All right, so I'm gonna add my homemade pesto. I'm gonna make sure I spread this evenly here throughout the pizza. Again, when it comes to these toppings, it's to your discretion. It's whatever you want to put. If you want to add a spaghetti sauce that's already store-bought, you have the choice to do that. Just make sure that the ingredients are not crazy. The more simpler, the less ingredients, the better. And I could season it myself or use my own herbs and so forth. You want to stay away from black pepper that is, rather, which is a form of a stimulant. So you want to have just herbs and sea salt, garlic, just ingredients that are pretty kosher. You don't want too many stuff in there. You don't want spices in there, because there are councils on spices, actually. So in the meantime, while I add my ingredients here. All right, so you can pause this video to read this counsel. This is taken from Counsels on Diets and Foods in regards to spice that I just talked about. So as you can see, I'm adding the other toppings. This is the kale chips that I've made with very light herbs and seasonings on top there. Then I'm adding the vegan cheese. Again, if you want that gummy appearance cheese, like the stringy type that you could stretch and so forth, agar helps to do that. Agar flakes. You can find this at the health food store. But I didn't get those, so I'm just gonna do it the simple, standard way of making vegan cheese. So I'm gonna add those toppings. You wanna make your pizza colorful. I like to add different colors. We have 2 shades of green in there, got some yellow in there. And later on, you will see that I will add some sauteed cabbage that I prepared also. That'll be topped in here as well. It's not mentioned in the beginning of the video, the ingredients, but something I put together. So I'm gonna add now my olives on top. You know, the more colorful, the better. You don't want to eat your rainbows. Now, unfortunately, I did not add the red peppers, but you can definitely add that in this recipe. You want to make sure your pizza is nice and colorful and so forth. So I'm just gonna finish with that and spread it through. Make sure it's spread out throughout the dough. And there you have it. All right. I like to use my hands, as you can tell. All right. Great. So now I'm going to add the cabbage topping. I'm also going to add the sesame seasoning. The sesame seasoning. Now, there are those who may be allergic to sesame. If that is you, then you don't obviously have to add this to your pizza. I just like to add some color to the meals that I prepare. All right. Now, as you can see, I added the cabbage as well. Sauteed cabbage, that is. And now I'm going to bake this in the oven for another, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes. Or even 10 minutes will do. All right. Now it's ready. I'm going to remove it from the pan. And there you have it. I'm now going to cut a slice so you can see the texture on the sides and everything, what it looked like. Oh, this is the mayo that I made on last episode. You could add that if you'd like, but I suggest you watch that video on how I made the mayo on this channel. but I'm going to just cut a slice here. All right, so I'm now ready to show you what it looks like, the texture. And there you have it. That's what it looks like. And there you have it, the pizza, plant-based. All right, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you like what you see. Make sure to like this video for the algorithm so that many others who need to know how to make this recipe can also receive the blessing. Make sure you comment and let me know if you tried it at home. Blessings! Hey, guess what? Do you love to cook? Do you love to be in the kitchen? Well, look no further. Add some agape love to your kitchen with I Can Do All Things Through Christ's apron and bring your guests to a warm extra hospitality. Now available on the Poetry Love Media Store. Get your item today. Get this and other kitchen items available at the Poetry Love Media Store. Thank you for your love and support.